Hello, hello, and welcome to the second half of season 5. I can't believe that we're already halfway through the year. My name is Debbie Heiser. I help entrepreneurs make a lot of money doing what they love without sacrificing what's important to them. I feel an urgency to help people let go of past messaging so that they can lead a lit up life. And with that, I want to again welcome you. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show.
Straight from the corners of my mind is where I find my sanity.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. This is Debbie Heiser. I help entrepreneurs make a lot of money doing what they love to do without sacrificing what's important to them. It's important to define. In the last podcast I did individually, talked about defining what it is that you want your life to look like so the business can be a conduit of that. So I'm going to step ahead a little bit in a process I use in my coaching. And one of that is asking the question, who's at your table? Now, what I mean by that is I honestly look at those categories I talked about in the last podcast. And if you didn't listen to it, I highly recommend, even before you listen to this one, go back and listen to that one. But I look at it and I think, who do I have in my life that either has what I want to achieve, maneuvers in the world from a value perspective, and is being the human being that I want to be, that models the behavior and the activities that I want to be. Because here's the deal. I see people do this all the time, where they look for and study people that are not being in your definition of, and I'm quoting for those of you listening, your definition of what success is. And it's because of the law of vibration, because it feels safer to vibrate at the same level as other people that are in the same situation as you, versus not being the smartest person in the room and vibrating, moving your vibration upward to vibrate at the same level as someone else that's smarter than you, that's doing it the way you want it to do. But here's the deal. If you vibrate and stay at this vibration and continue to hang around, continue to ask advice of the people that are not at where the level you want to be at, you're going to stay there. So it's about surrounding yourself, and I call this the people at your table, surrounding yourself with people that you continue to learn from. And frankly, if you want to be the smartest person in the room, go for it, but you're not going to grow. I mean, you all know me. I don't blow smoke. I'm just being frank with you. And sometimes people like to do that because they feel like they're needed. It's core wound stuff. They feel like they're needed. They feel like they're loved because of all of this. And so they stay in that space because they're looked at as an expert. They're looked at as that person that they want to be. Now, don't get me wrong, because there are people in my life that I aspire to be more like, and there are people that I inspire to be more like me. And those people have people that are inspired by the work they do, right? The courage they have, the resiliency, the ability to be really clear, whatever it is. So as you look through those categories, I find it easiest to look at the categories when I first started out doing this. And I thought, okay, like I'll share, I was thinking about my best friend, Barb, is, excuse me, one of the best people about being pretty clear and pretty logical about things, right? She'll be like, well, the way I see it, you've got this choice, or just this choice. So she doesn't use these words. I am the law of cause and effect. What effect do you want? Right? Because then that'll tell you which direction you need to go. And she's pretty plain and simple about it. And I love that. And, and it's really profound stuff. But she really makes it simple for people, right? Because she also understands how the brain works and how we squirrel out on some of these things. So I have her at my table. And whenever I go to talk to people, because she's very clear about setting expectations, she's very clear and concise in how she communicates with people as far as, hey, help me understand this, or I don't understand what happened here. Like, you had a commitment to do X, Y, and Z, and then you haven't done it yet. So that leads me to believe you either don't like it or I'm not really trusting that you're going to follow through on some things. So let's work through this. Like, she's really good at those things. So whenever I get ready to go talk to people and I'm feeling a little bit of nervousness or I'm feeling a little energy about it, not only do I clean that energy up before I go have the conversation, but I think to myself, what would Barb do? Right. And I'm not making sacrilege of the bracelets that used to come out and said, what would Jesus do or whatever. But I use that as an example because it's such a good example of what would Barb do? Right. Like, I used to joke with her that I was going to go get a bracelet that said WWBD. What would Barb do? And so that's in that one situation. I have other people at my table, my friend Wendy, who I interviewed on a podcast earlier about vacation rentals. She helps me all the time with money stories that I have, right? Like, she's had multi-million-dollar businesses. She had a business that in one day collapsed that was over $1 million business. And she came back and she's fine, right? Like, it's that reminder that I'm not going to die, right? Like, it's okay. And so I always think, what would Wendy do in this situation? Would she invest? Would she hold back and play it safe? I don't think so, right? But being smart and doing those things. And so I think about, what would Wendy say in this? And sometimes I just pick up the phone and call and say, what do you think about this? Give me your thoughts on this. Not so much because I'm not trusting my own self, but because they have a different perspective than I do, and I want to see it differently. My friend Heather, oh my goodness. And if I'm not naming your name on this podcast, please don't get upset, because there are a lot of people in my life that have different perspectives. These are just examples of some. But Heather has this way of like taking really complex things and having profound statements about them, and really looking at things through a perspective of ease. Like, she is working to create ease in her life, which is why I call her. I listen to her when we're interacting, so that I can think to myself, when I'm starting to make something difficult, not only do I have my easy button over there, but what would Heather do in this situation? Like, how would she approach this? How would she approach going at something with ease? And believe you me, some of the work she's done has not been easy, right? I have other people in my life that when they look at things, they get so excited about it. I think about my friend Shannon, like, so excited about serving people and helping people. So whenever I get in my head about stories about sales, I think about, okay, what would Shannon do in this situation, right? I think about my friend Nicole, who constantly, like, I call her a fun coach because she's so much fun and she brings out the laughter and the little girl in me. And so if I get into a situation and I'm feeling really heavy about it, I think, what would Nicole do? Right? Like, oh, these messages in our head are squirrels. So like, literally, she and a couple of people went out and took stuffed squirrels and they shot those little suction cup, like Nerf things at them, to knock the squirrels out of their head, right? So that they weren't squirreling out, like, just fun things like that. So I'm giving you an example of a few people in my life. And again, if I didn't name your name, it doesn't mean that I don't look at you as someone at my table. I'm just giving you some examples off the top of my head here, right? I go to my sisters for things all the time. When it comes to looking at certain things, I look at relationships, love relationships, even healthy love relationships. I love to do that. I remember when I lived in Kansas City, one of the things that I did was, when I was getting healthy and I was at my healthiest, I was working out with a personal trainer, Wilson. And I thought, you know what? I'm always so caught up in these programs and doing all these things. It's not that they don't work, but like, I'm used to having habits of someone that overeats or overindulges. So I want to study and watch people that are really healthy, that eat really healthy food, that put activity into their day for fun, right? Because when I grew up, activity was just like it wasn't even a necessary evil. It was like a chore. And so that's why one of my goals is to fall back in love with working out. And so I started to study what healthy, like, active, athletic people did, and tried to emulate some of those behaviors. Now, I was in the best shape of my life, right? So I'm starting now to go back to that and say, okay, what do those people do? And am I hanging around people that are emulating what I want to do? Because honestly, too, some people, I used to call it the people in my envelope. you become most like the people that surround you. And so give that some thought, right? Like, I have had people in my life that tend to kind of bring my vibration down sometimes. It's not that I still don't love some of those people and I still don't talk to some of those people, but I may not talk to them as frequently. Or if I'm struggling a little bit, I may not talk to them during that period of time because I feel a little vulnerable in the way that I'm thinking. So again, just thinking about what actions and what behaviors, what values you want to have in different areas of your life, and then having those people. And sometimes it's Oprah. That's why I have these glasses, frankly. They're Peeps, and she wears these peepers. And so I'm channeling the strength and resiliency that she displays, in my opinion. And again, this is for me, right? So for me, when I put these glasses on, it's like I feel strong. It's like the power suit, right, that we put on. So some of these people may be people you don't even know, right? At one point in time, I was thinking about someone at my table that around decision fatigue, right, that wore the same thing every day. And then I realized I can't do that because I like to shake it up a little, but a little humor there. But really think about, the previous podcast, like thinking about what you want, and then who's at your table that will either call you out or nicely, right, in a loving way, or who is it that's doing some of the things and being the person that they're being that you want to emulate, and then study them, watch them, talk to them, have them in your life, listen to their podcasts, go out and search for things that they do. Peter Crone is another one. I love him. He is a mind architect, is what he calls himself, and talking about the neuroscience and how we frame things and how we create these stories in our head. And, so a lot of times I'll listen to some of his stuff in the morning when I'm getting ready. Those are people at my table. Have I met him personally? No. Do I have a goal to meet him personally? Yes. But the point being is, like, it doesn't have to be someone that's in your life. I could think to myself, okay, I'm starting to go down this like rabbit hole of thinking. What would Peter Crone say? It's as easy as that. So pick out the people that you want at your table, go to them, think about what they would do or say or be differently than what you're potentially doing. But look at that again through the lens of curiosity, not judgment. The minute you start judging yourself, you've put yourself into a box, and also you lower your vibration. So with that, folks, it's a wrap. Everybody have a fabulous week, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening. The song Ride is co-written and sung by Miss Jackie Wilson and her collaborators Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee. And a huge shout out to them for allowing us to use this perfect song. Everyone have a fabulous week, and I'll talk to you next week.